Pomping World is a game with a fairly confusing backstory. Not as confusing as the Wonder Boy series, because that's an all-time champ, but it's going to take me a little while before I get to the game. The story really starts in 1983. Back then, Hudson Soft was still primarily a computer company, and one of the games that they released on the MSX was Cannonball. It also got a European release as Bubble Buster, so you might know that name. You ran around at the bottom of the screen and popped the bubbles by shooting lines up. Making things a bit different from a standard single-screen shooter, the balls were bouncing around, and the lines that you were shooting were persistent, at least until they hit the top of the screen. You might remember that Hudson stealth-ported this game to the PC Engine, hiding it behind a secret code in their version of the board game Life, Yu Yu Jinsei. Several years later, a new small arcade developer called Mitchell licensed Cannonball and made a greatly expanded version of it. That game was distributed by Capcom, which is why you'll find Capcom's Yashichi pinwheels in the game. This was released as Pomping World in Japan, Pang in Europe, and Buster Brothers in the US. This was just about the biggest success that Mitchell ever had, and they turned Pomping World into a series, but they dropped the name Pomping World. After this, the game would be known as Pang in Japan, adapting the European branding. Mitchell's really only known for one other game, and that would be Puzzloop, which really only gets its notoriety because it was the game that PopCap blatantly copied in order to make Zuma. A bit of a parallel there with Cannonball and Pomping World, but Mitchell definitely got permission from Hudson before they made their version. For this PC Engine port, it seems that Capcom themselves made it, even though Hudson handled publishing it. The end credits have a lot of Capcom staffers in them, including Mega Man creator Keiji Inafune. The plot of Pomping World is that the Earth is being invaded by balloon monsters, and it's up to two brothers to travel the world, pop all of the balloons at every location that they stop at, and end the alien threat. As you might have guessed from that description, this is a game that offers two-player simultaneous action, though as is typical, I wind up playing by myself. For each of the game's 54 stages, your goal is to get rid of all of the balls. Your standard tool for that is a harpoon gun, which you fire by pressing either button 1 or 2. And the big thing in Pomping World is that you only fire straight up. No bullets to the sides. However, with the harpoon gun, when you shoot it, it leaves a line behind it. And any balls that run into that also pop. Balls that are struck split in half, until eventually you have very small little balls. Something to keep in mind about these is that the height that they bounce is proportional to the size of the ball. Large ones bounce up to almost the height of the entire screen. Small ones bounce barely above your head. Coming into contact with a ball is fatal, but they all move in predictable ways. So usually the things that are really fatal to you are tight spaces and just getting overwhelmed by too many things happening. Sometimes when you hit a ball, an item will drop out. Most of these will be some kind of power-up, but there's also tons of things that will just give you points. There are 3 alternate weapons that you can get, and picking up any of these will replace what you're currently using. There's the double harpoon, which is the harpoon except you can shoot it twice. Usually you're restricted to 1 shot out at a time, and since that harpoon moves very slowly, it can take several seconds before you're allowed to fire again. Well, now you have 2 chances to hit something. You can even fire to the right, fire to the left, and stand in between them, and be relatively safe. The next weapon is a gun. You shoot things. You lose the advantage of the lines, but you can fire an awful lot of shots. This one winds up being especially good early on, since you can fire a barrage and hit the smaller bubbles as they come out of the bigger one, but it's trickier to use when things get close to you. Finally, there's the anchored shot, which is a bit of a mixed blessing. The regular harpoon goes away when it strikes the surface. This one sticks and stays. Great if you can get the balls to run over the line, but if there's nobody close, then you could have quite a wait before that line goes away. You can only have one shot out at a time, and there's no way for you to make it go away. As for other things that drop from the balls, the hourglasses freeze the stage timer for a little bit, while the stopwatch freezes all the bubbles in place. You can't get hurt while the bubbles are frozen, but it's also not uncommon for them to freeze in a way that you can't hit them. Little star effect gives you a shield that will let you take one hit. This goes away after you complete the stage, so it helps to use this strategically and intentionally take some blows. Finally, there's the dynamite, which hits everything on the screen except the smallest level of ball. That can either be a really big help or a really bad problem. Besides the balloons bouncing around, there are also animals that spawn in and follow certain patterns. If one of these touches you, it's not fatal, but it does stop you from shooting for a few seconds. Of course, you can hit them yourself. You'll notice that there are certain features on the stages. Some levels have bricks that you can break, while other bricks are indestructible. Other levels have slippery floors. And late in the game, there's even stages where some obstacles are invisible. Something useful to know about the ladders and platforming here is that while you can't jump, you do have a bit of control while you're falling. You might need to drop from a platform and land on another one in order to hit an out-of-the-way ball. Extra lives in Pomping World are earned through score, and the game is fairly generous about those. If you keep collecting food and moving fast while popping the bubbles, then you'll likely rack up a bunch of extra lives. When you run out of lives, then you can continue twice, picking up at the exact level that you left off. If you do get a game over, then when you start up next time, you can advance through the different regions up to the one that you last completed. Doing this will lock you out of the final few stages, but you can at least continue on to new levels for a while. If you want to reach the ending of the game, then you have to start at level 1 and play the whole way through. Japanese players like the PC Engine version of Pomping World a lot. A common sentiment I saw was that it was better than the arcade version. And I happen to be pretty fond of Pomping World myself. I find it to be a little bit on the easy side, but that works out fine since there's a good flow to the action. You play a stage for 30 seconds or so, and then everything gets shuffled up again. Pomping World makes for a nice, light action game. Kind of an odd contrast to all of the super difficult arcade ports the PC Engine has been getting lately.